of a lab write-up has to do with the conclusion. So specifically, we write conclusions in a very precise way. It's called a CER, for claim, evidence, reasoning. You've probably heard this before, but I'm going to teach you the proper way to do it in science class. So I know English class has a different way to do it, and social studies class has a different way to do it. We all kind of have the same thread of making a claim and using proof and then wrapping it up. But there's a very specific formula for science class that I would like you to be familiar with. So step one is the claim. So it is a one-sentence answer to the question. So those questions that we learned how to make, the how, does, the da-da-da-da-da, affect the da-da-da-da, we're answering that question now. It's usually only one sentence. I would say 90% of the time it's one sentence. It only answers the question. Please do not put any other information in there. And it does not explain why. These two are super important. Please do not tell me because in the claim. I don't care in the claim. Like me personally, I don't care about because in the claim. So the answer does not explain why. Never use the word because in this section of the CER, because all you are doing is answering that darn question. Just tell me what happened. Then is the evidence. This is where your qualitative or your quantitative, remember quantitative being numbers because it has the N in it, so qualitative or quantitative data. The evidence should be appropriate and relevant enough to prove that your claim is correct. So don't just tell me 2 data points. You're probably going to need 3, probably even 4, because you telling me 2 things could not tell me the whole picture. So as a scientist, you want to be thorough and you want to make sure you have all of the data points and you want to make sure that you cover all your bases. So I would say at least 4 data points, at least. It can be bullet pointed, so you do not need to write me 4 huge, long run-on sentences, but you do need to write me data points. And it does need to make sense, so don't just write equals. I don't know what that is. And then your reasoning. This should be the longest section. It should be a paragraph. It has 4 steps, so there should be 4 sentences. You're going to first restate your claim. You can even write the same exact thing. That is totally fine. Or you can summarize it, but you're restating your claim. Then you're providing some appropriate, relevant, and sufficient scientific principles. Concepts, and or definitions. So if we are talking about photosynthesis, you should probably tell me what photosynthesis is. This is the step I would say most people forget, and that is where you mostly get all of your points off. You need to relate it to what we are doing. You need to relate it to something about science. Otherwise, what does it have to do with science? Step 3 is provide the evidence or data from the activity or the lab or the gizmo or whatever kind of experiment that you just did. Make sure that you have some data that proves your claim and ties into the concept that you're talking about. And then your last one is your wrap-up sentence or your summarizing sentence where you conclude the reasoning section by tying together the data with those scientific principles, concepts, and definitions. You can use words such as due to this, therefore, or even this is because. So basically in your last sentence, you're wrapping it all together. Overall, the reasoning is just kind of tying everything up, telling us why this happened. So this is when you can say because. You can say that the plant grew X amount of times because. Here is where you can tell me all of the information that you know and how you answered that question using your evidence. So the reasoning just wraps it up, ties it all together in a nice pretty bow in your conclusion paragraph.